Okay, so in part one, we made it this far. Let's do this. Let's continue this fun. We made everything into a symbol at the end of the last video, and what I'm going to do is select everything, copy it, make a new layer, paste it all back in place again. So now I've just got a duplicate down this way, and I'm going to break all this apart. So undo, at least on this one layer, what we previously had. So we're now back down to fill artwork. And let's make the fill color be just black. You see where we're going with this. We're going to make a nice little shadow underneath. I'm going to hit F8 on this, call it shadow, and go over here to color effect, take the alpha down. Okay, now we can kind of move it back into place. Let's put a filter on this. This is going to be a nice blur filter. Probably for this, the whole video, I'll just try to set the quality up to high on most of these. And then let's just, by the way, you can unlink these two together if you just press down right there. So if you want it to be a little bit more blurred on the Y versus the X, you do have that option. So you get something like that happening. Not really realistic though. It can kind of look cool, but it's sort of not how things actually work in life. I guess at times it does. All right, so there we go. We've got a nice little shadow underneath, and even that makes it look a little bit more real. Okay, so what's ahead? A lot of filters, a lot of, we're going to do a bit of masking, stuff like that. And let's start up here. So I've got this little chunk. Again, it's already made into a symbol. And we're going to use a drop shadow on this. So we're going to do an inner shadow, and it's a little hard to, well, actually, I should be able to tell what's going on with that. So instead of projecting it outward, like this, right, now we're doing it inward, okay. I don't think we'll go with that hot pink. And let's get the distance back up to, I don't know, something like 5 or so. Actually, we could go even further with that probably. Set the quality up. I'm going to tweak the blurring a bit. There we go. And take the strength down so it's not just like a full black. And yeah, it's, you know, so it's really not doing a ton, right? I mean, it's just kind of shading this in for us here, but you know, it's one of the reasons I like these filters. You can switch them on and off real quick. We can stack one on top of another. So what we could do is we could make another drop shadow, right? And let's see, which is the one we were working with before. This one. So let's move this one up top here. And let's make this an inner shadow again. This time, though, we'll go with white. And that way, we get kind of the thing that's happening with this over here. In fact, we could even do another one, see how it gets a little darker on the edge as well. So we don't have to. Again, we're kind of doing something. This depends on how similar you want to make it. But there you go. You can kind of angle it around to get something like that happening. And, you know, it looks like a nicely shaded in thing. It's got some more dimension to it than what we had a moment ago. You can also copy these. So if you just so happen to know of another place in this same scene that could benefit from similar shading, you can just, you know, select that, paste it on in there. Not really that spot, I guess, but you know, you could also just, you know, delete out part of it too if you you know, that part works well over here. Sure, go for it. In fact, actually, and you can do these one at a time. You don't have to copy all of them. So let's see if let's pull them up. There we go. Copy just the selected filter. And that one might actually be a good one to paste in a few places. Let's try that. Let's go and paste that in. I'll take the strength down just a bit. And maybe take the distance down some too. For this one right here and this one, obviously we could do some little lines like that. Certainly make it look a lot more like the original thing. Let's go ahead and do it. So we'll just grab a line tool. And what do we want? Something a little bit darker, I guess. So I'll just zoom in here. And actually, well, first off, that didn't work at all. Let's reverse those. But what I was just about to say is, this maybe we just want a completely black line, and then we could again work around with some of the properties to kind of just take the alpha down, stuff like that, and that way we could apply it to probably all of these a little bit better. Okay, so you can look at the original shape for this. Take a look. See, our lines are not really perfect like there. Instead of going through here and adjusting each one of these, one thing you could try doing is selecting everything. Okay, so just when you select the keyframe, it's going to select everything on that layer. Hit the Q key and go over here to distort. There you go. And you can just bring up that one like so. So just a quick little option to just kind of uniformly change those around. Let's take the wireframes off. Okay, and again, kind of comparing it to the original. Probably we could make the over the properties window, probably making the stroke a little bit bigger, maybe like 1.5. And then let's just hit F8 on it. So again, after we do that, we can play with all the little fun stuff, like taking the alpha down. And yeah, I suppose I should be kind of comparing these side by side. You could blur it a little bit too. There's a point at which, it just blurs itself out. You don't even really notice it. Let's try 2 on the Y. Yeah, it's probably all right. So I'm going to just copy that, paste it in place. I'll flip it around. And because the alpha is set on it, this is going to then just kind of make that a little bit darker than whatever the base color was. Do the same thing down here. Copy, paste in place. I'm holding down the Option key and hitting the up arrow, so just flips it around vertically. I don't think I mentioned this last time. I did in the beginner videos, but here's where you would not do it via the hotkey if you want to try to go as slow as possible. And okay, you know what? Let's grab this shape right here. Let's just copy this filter. See if we can use this in a couple other places. Probably even both of these might work well. Yeah. And, angle these how you feel. As OB1 says, you must do what you feel is right, of course. So we could angle this around here. Again, pretending that our light source is somewhere up this way. You know what? I might even do that on this one too, but just not so much so. Let's take the distance down some. And I'll flip the angle around a bit. Ooh, as for this guy, because it's going so well, let's, you know what, actually let's not do a drop shot on that one. Let's do I'll use a glow, and I'll just set this to black. Again, inner, so we can then do something like this, set the quality up. The original is not that dark around the edges, but that's okay. I feel like it's inset nicely like that. So just, again, got to do what you feel is right. And in fact, I'll do that over here too. Just take the strength down some. Oh, as for this guy, let's see if we can get away with using the same filters over here. Copy all. Paste them in place. That one, the white part of that, let's angle that back around to the bottom. And I'll take the strength down a little bit. And if we wanted, we could do another edge around it. Let me bring this to the top of the stack. And then, again, I'll use inner glow for this. Actually, I'm sorry. I meant to do a glow. Just an inner glow around the whole thing. Of course, you're not seeing the bottom part of it. But make that be dark. And there you go. So you get a nice little effect like that. And, of course, too, you could tighten it up a little by playing around with the blurring on it. So, and I didn't mean to zoom in that far. I did mean to look at this though. Let's see what else can we do here. Well, let's leave that as is for a bit, and we'll make some of the kind of textured effects here. And what do we have on this one layer? I'm just going to try to get everything onto one layer. So I'm just going to cut those off, paste those back in place. Okay, and let's draw just right over top of this image. I'm going to grab the brush tool. Color doesn't really matter too much. In fact, let's get something that'll stand out so you can really kind of see it. Red will work nicely. And let's travel into this little area. Okay, so you do have some brush size options. This is not the greatest tool in the world, but you know, it'll work well for us. Brush shape, really just this circular shape is fine. And so I'm just going to kind of go through here, and I'm not using a Wacom or any sort of anything fancy. I'm just using the touchpad on my MacBook. So it's not even really going to be that exact either. But so we can just go through, and we don't need that much of this either because we can kind of repeat parts of it out. As long as we get some of this in. There we go. That should be plenty. Okay, so go ahead and select all that, hit F8 on it, and obviously we're not going to keep this red for long, so let's double click inside of here. We'll just make it a black color, just solid black, and then let's take the alpha down on it. Yeah, well, since I haven't shown you guys this yet, you can go over here to advanced. You can also take the alpha down through here, but this also gives you some color options too, so you could, you know, that's not the best one actually. Yeah, if you want to make it slightly reddish, and there is actually a little bit of red in some of these, isn't there? I would probably make this blurred a bit as well. Let's try with the quality set to high, and then just maybe 1 and 2, maybe 2 and 2, something like that. And we, you know, we could overlay a couple of these on top of each other, so you get some effects kind of like that happening, where you then take, you know, this one down a little bit more, so you sort of double up on the kind of, you know, gristle of it in some places. Let's cut this off though, and let's work inside of this symbol. So I'm going to double click inside of here. I'm going to duplicate this layer. So let's get rid of duplicate layers. And if it's a little clearer to understand, on the top one, what I'm going to do is just make this a nice blue color. And this is going to be our mask. I don't need to mask the original shape though. So what I'm going to do is make one layer between them. So you can see it's just, there's this empty layer right here. That's where we're going to paste back in what we just had. And then this top layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and then just make this into a mask. And so what will happen is if I have any of this stuff trailing off of there, you're just not going to see it. So you have to kind of lock these layers up. But you'll notice that you're not seeing the bottom part of that down there, right? And usually what I'll do when I'm working like this is just make the mask layer a wireframe. And then when you unlock this, you can just see that, you know, that blue part over there is obviously the mask. And then the original artwork is just not masked at all. It's only stuff that's inside of here that's getting masked. It could be, you could drag it underneath here if you wanted, but it just, you know, because it's a duplicate of the same shape, it just doesn't matter, right? Okay, so let's use our hotkeys to kind of flip some of this stuff around. Obviously, we don't want to reveal to people that we're just kind of using the same shape over and over again. We could make some of these smaller. We could take the blurring off. Just kind of see what works for us here. And then just kind of pull back out. Probably, you know, now I'm looking at it, the blurring is probably a good idea for the most part. And up top here, let's kind of squish it a little bit. I think that ought to look good. So again, flip it around, maybe squish it a little bit more. Take that snap off. You know what? Let's grab all this stuff and move it up some. And then I'm just going to, with it all selected, just flip it around. Put a bunch underneath here. And you could make all this into a symbol as well. And that way, if you wanted to maybe play around with some of the blending options, so you could go, and right now it's just set to normal. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just select one and then hit down on the keyboard, and I'll just kind of thumb you through the other options you have for blending that in with whatever else is visible through there. And nothing's really popping out as I'm looking at it any different. We might notice it. Well, not even. But yeah, you know, it's kind of keep doing that again and again. You know. I don't want to bore you guys too much with this stuff. But eventually, you know, you kind of just build up some sort of texture like that. And we could probably get away with just copying all this, going into another one. So again, just repeat the same steps, duplicate, make another layer between here where there's nothing on it. Make this into a mask, right? Wireframe, make sure you can see it. And, you know, then let's just try to make it not look identical to the one next door. Although, hopefully you guys watched the prerequisite stuff I suggested. But of course, you know, because I did make this into a symbol containing a bunch of other ones, if I were to change what's inside of here, it's going to affect the same one over this way. So I'd have to duplicate that if I wanted to make it unique changes in here, which would be a good idea. It's kind of obvious that these two are similar looking. So, you know, you can just go over here to modify symbol and then duplicate symbol. So that'll make a unique instance of it. And then you could go in here and you could start, you know, doing all sorts of different things to it to, you know, make it look different. Now these individual ones, you know, that's not going to matter. You can move them wherever. Okay, so yeah, you know, it's looking a little bit more scuffed up. Maybe in some places we should make it less scuffed up. I mean, whoever's taking care of this thing is doing a horrible job. We must just keep fighting people. We're dropping it. Okay, we'll do this one more time, and just real quickly on these parts over here. So again, I'll just grab all this, and oh, I guess actually I'd have to do this 2 more times one time. That's okay. You work along at your own project. Just leave me playing in the background. Ask. And I'll tell you when there's something new to watch. Okay. Almost there. And yeah, I could clean this up a little bit. Make sure there's not stuff just unnecessarily hanging off to the side. Golly, I kind of forgot that this was separate, huh? That should probably be, well, I guess it doesn't have to be. I feel like I want that to be a little bit darker. So again, we're kind of getting away from the original, but that to me just looks a little bit better. Okay, so other things you could do just real quickly, you know, add some texture to this. I mean, just grab a line. We could start with, actually we can make this a gradient. We can go over here to color, linear gradient, and it's going to set us back to using that one. Let's try to go with, here. Let's make this be white on both ends. Let's make it white and white in the middle. And then on this one, let's take the alpha down. We'll do the same thing over here. So basically, we've just alphaed out both ends of it. And if I was on a layer above everything, you'd see something like this, right? So just kind of, you know, smoothly fades away. You could hit F8 on that, make it into a symbol. I was about to use the hotkey real quick for scale and rotate, which I don't think I've told you guys. Well, again, unless you watch the prerequisite videos, that's one of my favorite hotkeys. To use it, you need to go over here to transform, and I actually set up a custom hotkey for this, but here it is, the slow way. You'd have to go dipping down into here. So I'd suggest a hotkey like Command R. That's a good one. And yeah, so just do some stuff like this. Of course, you could also tint it as well. That would work. So if you want to just do like a darker scratch, that's another option. And this is stuff too that you could put inside of the mask as well. But it just kind of adds a little bit to it. You could always duplicate these, so you could hit Command D. Again, that's a hotkey I set up. Or go over here, simple duplicate, and make a unique copy of it. That way, if you want to do something, kind of take part away in the middle of it, you can do that. I just took a little bit out of it. And what else do we got going on? Let's see. Let me grab one of my little texture guys again. Actually, I was going to show you guys a couple ways you could go about doing that little texture-y stuff. Another one, you could just grab, here, let me go and just find an empty layer. I'm going to switch this to being just kind of a dark color. Just grab the pencil tool, and I was just going to kind of scribble out here. This is not I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I decided using that paintbrush is probably better. But, you could do something like this, and then you could go to shape, convert lines to fills, okay? And you might just get something weird that starts happening, which isn't always a bad thing. Like that kind of just filled itself in. And then you could also go over here to expand fill, and you could try insetting it and just seeing what happens. Again, I would not have predicted that right there. I'll do it again, just using my hotkey real quick. Let's try to fill it. Let's see. Well, let's try to maybe expand it too. Let's see what happens. So yeah, there's this, right? This is a kind of whatever thing. And by the time you alpha it out, maybe blur it a bit, then you've got this whole other different thing that, yeah. So you got something like this going on, right? And again, you just put it, it's almost like this little, just subtle, I don't know, what do you call this? Just subtle texturing. And I'm not going to worry about masking it or anything. But you can see how it looks big too, And by the way, I pretty sure I just used a hotkey for something that I didn't talk much about yet in this video series, which is just arranging things. So if you hold down Shift and Option, oops, nope, that's not it either. If I have to think about it, there it is. If I have to think about what my hands are doing, I might mess up. I'm sorry, if it's Command, it's just going to move things back in front of other stuff. So, and I did that over here without telling you guys. So anyway, but this is a good place you could do it because you could probably slip it in between these, all this over here, or move this one up. You could do that as well. So you can kind of fill that in, make that a bit darker. All sorts of fun stuff you can do. And if you're not recording a video tutorial, then you can really spend time on things. Okay, so, last minute considerations, you might just grab like a white square, and I'm going to hit F8 on this. I'm going to blur it out a bit. And go over here to your blending and just see if you kind of want it here using the add. That's pretty much what I was looking for. If something like this makes sense, okay. If you just kind of want to kind of blow out the contrast in certain places, right? So you can just do something like this. Maybe shrink it up a bit there. Let's see. Sometimes it looks good, right? Sometimes it doesn't, But you can also take the alpha down too, and that's going to kind of minimize the effect of it. And maybe a square wasn't the best thing to go with. A circle could have been a little bit better too. But you could do that in some of these, like here and here. That might make sense a little bit. Let's see. Let me take the blurring off on it. I'll just... I mean, another option would be to just... I'm just going to break this apart so it's no longer a symbol. But just to real quickly, using the black arrow here, just kind of run along. Just reshape this. I'm going to hold down the Option key to just add in another point. Add in another point. Add in another point. Add in another point. So you get something like that happening. And then go back and just do what I just talked about. So you can glow it too. That'd be another way of pretty much getting the same thing. Maybe go back to low. But yeah, let's take the alpha down a bit. We could still go and maybe do that add effect. So you just kind of got to see if that is what you're looking for. Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to make it so we can kind of compare the two of them. You can see why I decided not to go with the rest of this over here. It would have taken a long time. But hey, we can just pretend. Look, just pretend that this, here we go. Just draw, yeah, there we go. It's just all black after that. Yeah, anyway, it is what it is. It's doesn't look exactly like the original, but it also doesn't, fail to look good, I suppose. If we had hours to work on this, we could really make it look nice. But hey, close enough, right? So anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Like I said in the very beginning of part one, if you haven't gotten a free Cartoon Smart user account, get one. It's free. You get lots of free video tutorials. Most of what I teach is actually iOS programming. So if you guys have ever thought about making a game, just a simple one, hey, sometimes those things take off. My dad is huge into this desert golf game, which he told me today. He was like, look, and now some other guy ripped it off and made one identical, and it's free with ads. And I was like, yeah, I could probably do that in an afternoon. And I thought, I could also probably teach that in an afternoon. So there's all sorts of fun little projects we got going on over there. I just taught a little asteroid series. So if if you're just curious about making games and you're on a Mac, that you do kind of need to be on a Mac for what I teach. But yeah, it's a ton of fun, and you get to kind of combine your art stuff with programming. And I'll let you know a little secret: making games is not that difficult. Okay, all right. So that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Just be sure to visit cartoonsmart.com, and that is it for today.